All right, hello students. Today we're going to be moving on with Lesson 5, Module 1, Lesson 5, solving problems by finding equivalent ratios. So we're going to take our understanding of equivalent ratios and we're going to start solving different problems based on those equivalent ratios. All right, so let's go over our first problem or first example. A county superintendent of a highway is interested in the number of different types of vehicles that regularly travel within his county. Okay, it's just some information, nothing important yet. In the month of August, a total of 192 registrations were purchased for passenger cars and pickup trucks at the local Department of Motor Vehicles, or DMV. So there is important information. Remember, this is math class, so we're probably looking for um, some numbers to use. So let's go ahead and kind of underline some important pieces. First, the total registrations. That would be an important piece of information. Also, the fact that we're talking, I guess, about cars and trucks. Department of Motor Vehicles, that might be important. So let's go ahead and just underline that, keep that in mind. And let's go ahead and continue looking through it or reading through it. The Department, or DMV, reported that in the month of August, here we go. Here's kind of a start of a ratio. For every 5 passenger cars registered, there were 7 pickup trucks registered. How many of each vehicle were registered in the county in the month of August? All right, so let's go ahead and get out our pen. Let's underline some more. Well, of course, our ratio here for every 5, let's go passenger cars, there were 7 pickup trucks. So that's a ratio. That's probably an important piece of information, considering we're dealing with ratios. So let's go ahead and underline that. All right, so now we're going to be given some tasks. We're going to start with A here. Of course, we're going to go down to B and so forth. So let's go ahead and look at the tasks and answer them, kind of see what we need to do. Use the information from the problem. So we're going to use all this information up here to write 4 different ratios and describe the meaning of each. All right, so we were given a ratio of 5 to 7. So we need to describe, or we need to come up with a ratio. Well, the first one, we call it a part-to-part ratio because we're dealing with part of the information with another part of the information. Like for every 5 cars, that's part of the information, there's 7 pickup trucks. So our first ratio, which is a part-to-part, and here's a description of part-to-part ratio. We have number of cars, which is 5, to number of trucks. And the number of trucks in this case, actually I'm going to put TR for trucks. I'll kind of discuss that later. Is 7. So this is part of the registered vehicles were cars, part of the registered vehicles were trucks. So this is called a part-to-part ratio. So there's one ratio. Another type of ratio is called a part-to-whole ratio. Capitalize. Once again, here's a description of what type of ratio this is. This is a part-to-whole ratio. So this is taking part of the information and relating it to the whole. So let's go and get out our pen. We're going to use so we have 2 parts. Remember, we have cars and we have trucks. So I'm going to use the part of cars, and I'm going to compare it to the whole, or the total. Now the reason I'm going to put T for total, or TO for total, is because in the reading it says total. Under here, what this blue is, total of 192 vehicles, 92 registrations. Well, that's not the total we're using because we have a 5 to 7. So 5 is the cars. Using this ratio of 5 to 7, what is the total? Well, to find the total, we just simply add them up. 5 plus 7 would give me 12. So we had to do a little math there. We had to do a little addition, but there is your part-to-whole ratio. So now we got to come up with there's one other type of ratio, and this is called a whole. Let's get my cursor out of the way. To part ratio. Well, this is kind of taking the whole number again, the whole number of 12, or the total. Let's go ahead and our green out this time. Our total, or TO. So again, this is part of the description. Our total of 12 and comparing it to a part. Well, I could use cars again because remember we change them around. We flip the numbers around. That is a different ratio because it's comparing in a different way. But without making too big of a mess. So there's trucks. And of course, the trucks, so the ratio given, 5 to 7, 7 is the trucks. Well, those are three different types of ratios: part to whole, and whole to part. Well, this asked us to make 4 different, so let's go ahead and underline that. Right, 4 different ratios. Well, remember, I can make a different ratio by simply switching the numbers around. Now, it's not writing it using the word 2. Like I couldn't take out the colon here and write the word 2 and go 5 to 7. That wouldn't work. But what I could do is I could rewrite it. Instead of putting cars first, I put trucks. So let's go and abbreviate TR for trucks. And that would be 7. Colon, and we're going to put cars now second. This is different because the order matters. So there you go. There's 5 different types of ratios. We have 1 here, 2, 3, and then 4 down here for a different one. Now, of course, we could have switched these around or put parts 7 to 12. But there you go. Those are the 3 different types of ratios we can write. And those are 4 different types of ratios using all 3 types. All right, go and stop the video. Go and move on to the next exercise. All right, hello students. Let's go ahead and start with moving on with B, C, and D. So if we look at B here, let's go and get out our pen. It says make a tape diagram. So I like to underline what we're going to do. I'm going to make a tape diagram that represents the quantities in the part-to-part ratio. Well, remember from above, we wrote a part-to-part ratio of 5 to 7, representing cars to trucks. So all we have to do is simply make a tape diagram based on this. So we have cars of 5. So of course we need to make 5 boxes. Okay, so remember they're not going to be beautiful or perfect, but we need to try our best to make them as best as we can. All right, so there's 4. We just need 1 more, and there's 5. And then we're going to compare it to the other part of the information. Remember, the other part of the information were the trucks. Well, remember, for the trucks, there were 7. For every 5 cars registered, there were 7 trucks registered. So we need to make simply 7 tapes now. Well, remember, we want to try to line them up as best as possible. So those 3 kind of line up with the 3 above, and 4 line up with the 4, and 5. And of course, now that we need 7, which means we need 2 more. Now, this is important to kind of line these up for what we're going to continue doing throughout this lesson. Equal parts does the tape diagram consist of? Well, if we look at this, remember each of these tapes is an equal part. Right now they all equal 1 because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up top. We have 7 down here on the bottom, so we can count them all up, or we can just simply add. 5 plus 7 is 12. So this has 12 equal parts. So underneath the equal parts, we're simply going to go ahead and put the 12. That's it. I mean, that's all it's really asking us to do. So there you go. The last one, now people get confused with this last one. It says what total quantity, keyword there was quantity, or total quantity, excuse me, let's get the total in there, does the tape diagram represent? Well, it doesn't represent 12. There's 12 equal parts, but if we look back at the original kind of problem statement, hopefully you have this piece underlined. I underlined it for you. Total of 192 registrations. This is the total quantity they're discussing or talking about when it comes down to that last one. The 12 here represent the equal parts in the part-to-part ratio. The total quantity is that 192 that they gave us in the beginning. So this represents, or the tape diagram from B represents all the 192 vehicles. Okay, now we're going to kind of discuss how what that really means on the next part, on part E and F. So let's go ahead and move on from there. We should be able to do this all in one video. And we have 192 vehicles that were registered. Output of the tape diagram. Time, I'm just going to go ahead and give you the answer. 192 divided by 12 is 16 vehicles, or 16. Each tape represents 16. So now, there you go. So each individual piece of tape is going to represent 16 because the total number of vehicles, 192. We had the cars. We had trucks. They gave us a because this is what makes it equivalent. We're multiplying both of these by the same number. So of course we could do the math on the side if we wanted to or needed to. Please do if necessary. But just to save some time, I'm going to do it for you. 5 times 16 is 80. So we're talking about 80 cars altogether. And we multiply 7 times 16, that gives us 112. And of course, this is trucks. Okay, now we could check this answer to make sure this is correct. Well, how do I know for sure this is correct? Well, remember, how many vehicles do we have total? Now, this isn't really part of the problem, that's why I'm changing the color. But in math class, we usually can check our answer to make sure we're correct. Well, to check this, we could add these up. Remember, the total, we add. So 0 plus 2 is 2. 8 and 1 is 9. And 0 plus 1 is 1. So 192 vehicles were registered, and of course that matches. It matches with E. It matches with the information presented to us. All right, so there you go. There's your exercise 1 that we went through all the steps. Go ahead and stop the video and go ahead and move on to the next video, please. All right, hello students. Let's go ahead and move on to one more example, example 2. Let's go and read through it together real quick. Sorry, first of all, I put some information down here that you don't have yet. This is to kind of help speed the process up so these videos aren't taking too long. You can write this, you can pause the video and kind of copy this down now. We'll talk about it later, or you can pause the video and copy this down another time. All right, the superintendent of highways is further interested in the number of commercial vehicles that frequently use the county's highway. He obtains information from the Department of Motor Vehicles for the month of September, and finds that for every 14 non-commercial vehicles, there are 5 commercial vehicles. Well, that first sentence really just kind of just telling us what they're doing. The second sentence, however, has an important piece of information. It has a ratio here. Remember, for every indicates a ratio coming up. 14 non-commercial vehicles, there are 5 commercial vehicles. Well, if you kind of look down here at my tape diagram, there's 14 tapes here and there's 5 tapes here. That's what these are kind of indicate. So I've already kind of created the tape diagram, kind of get us started, giving a head start. But let's go ahead and finish up the information and see what else we need to find. It says, if there were 108 more non-commercial vehicles than commercial vehicles, how many of each type of vehicle frequently use the county's highway during the month of September? So let's go ahead and grab our pen. Important piece of information right here is 108 more non-commercial vehicles than non-commercial vehicles use the highway. The last part that we're going to underline is the question, or what are they kind of really asking us to do? It says, how many of each type of vehicle frequently use the county's highway? So that's what we have to answer. We have to determine how many of each type of vehicle. Well, we're going to use a tape diagram to kind of help us out. And I create use kind of for a business as opposed to commercial vehicles. Excuse me, I spelled that incorrectly. All right, so if you want to take a moment, pause it. This is the tape diagram for non-commercial vehicles. 14, these are like regular cars and trucks on the highway. And then commercial vehicles, and of course there's 8. These are kind of for businesses. All right, hopefully you notice that I've lined up these boxes. Okay, this is very important for what we're about to do, because the underline in red, this piece of information, 108 more non-commercial vehicles use the highway. This extra part here indicates 108. I'm going to use red to kind of connect them together. So from this point all the way over to this point indicates that there's 108 cars here, or 108 non-commercial vehicles. Because we need that information to answer the next question. How many of each type? Well, based on the information provided, we can't fill in these boxes. We just know it's 14 and 5. But with the 108, we have to, the 108 fills up these 9 boxes over here, because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So how do I determine what number goes in each box? Well, this is a division problem. I have all these 108 and needs to be divided up into these 9 boxes. So we're going to take the 108, we're simply going to divide that by the number of boxes, which in this case is 9. And once again, to kind of save us some time, I'm just going to go ahead and give you the answer. The answer is 12. So each box indicates 12 all the way through. I'm not going to write them on all of them. So all these are 12. So if I went the other way, of course, all boxes have to be represented by 12. Okay, all these boxes up here, I'm going to do the same thing down here, all these boxes down here. Now I'm just simply putting dots in here, just kind of save us some time so you're not having to watch me write 12 over and over again. But please pause for a moment and write 12 into all of these boxes. All right, so now that we know what number goes into each box, now we can determine kind of the last part here. We can answer the question, how many of each type of vehicle? So So 12 times 14. Well, of course, you can use a calculator. We can do it longhand. But I'm just going to go and give you the answer. It's 168, kind of save us some time. So there you go. So there's our answer. Let's go ahead and kind of write the answer out, kind of more formal. Okay. Non-commercial. I'm going to kind of abbreviate. I'm going to put non-commercial. And of course, equals 168. And then go ahead and commercial equals, what did we say, 60. So here's the tape diagram. Remember, is not the answer. The tape diagram helps us to get to the answer. The answer is up here. For non-commercial vehicles, there's 168, and for commercial vehicles, there's 60. So there you go. There's the answer to answer how many. And we're going to go over these in class. So your job is to give these two questions a try, and we're going to talk about the answers in class. So go ahead and stop the video at this time. If you need to rewind to finish it up, please do so. Otherwise, go and stop your video and start working on this. And if your partner's done, you can work on it with your partner.